In 1590, a bitter feud broke out between two powerful clans in the Scottish Highlands, leading to a series of events that would leave a lasting stain on the region's history. The story began when the widow of the Laird of Ballindalloch married John Gordon, the son of Thomas Gordon of Cluny, a union that drew Gordon into the tangled web of loyalties and rivalries surrounding the Grant family. At the heart of the conflict was John Grant, the former tutor of Ballindalloch, a title that referred to his role as a guardian and administrator of the Ballindalloch estate. Often called the Pearl of the North, Ballindalloch Castle is one of Scotland's most beautiful fortresses. Located deep in the heart of Speyside, the castle was the ancestral home of Clan Grant and played a pivotal role in their history. During the late 1500s, Ballindalloch was more than just a stately home. It was a fortress at the centre of a bitter power struggle. Speyside itself is a region rich in history and natural beauty, stretching along the River Spey, Scotland's second longest river. The river has long shaped the land and lives of those who've settled there, providing fertile ground for farming and later becoming the lifeblood of the whisky industry, for which the region is now famous. But Speyside's history runs much deeper than its distilleries. The area was once the heart of ancient Pictish tribes, and later became a battleground for feuding clans during Scotland's turbulent past. For the Grants, Ballindalloch was a symbol of both survival and prosperity. Yet life in Speyside was never without its challenges. The fertile lands made the region a target during clan wars, and the Grants often found themselves defending their home from rival clans, most notably the Gordons. The feud between the two families led to bloodshed that stained the fields surrounding the castle, a reminder of how fiercely people fought for the places they called home. Over time, peace returned to the region, and the Grants rebuilt Ballindalloch, with the care of those determined to preserve its legacy. Today Speyside is known for its scenic glens, ancient woodlands, and the golden liquid that's made it a global destination for whisky lovers. But for those who wander the grounds of Ballindalloch, there's a sense that Speyside's soul lies not just in its landscapes or distilleries, but in places like the castle, homes built on love, resilience, and an unbreakable connection to the land. The events of 1590, including the feud between the Gordons and the Grants, solidified the castle's reputation as a place steeped both in clan pride and conflict. Tensions escalated dramatically when the tutor killed one of John Gordon's servants. This violent act sparked a feud that went beyond individual grievances, drawing in two of the most powerful noble families in Scotland, the Earl of Huntly, who supported the Gordons, and the Earl of Moray, who backed the Grants. Determined to see justice served, the Earl of Huntly led a force to Ballindalloch in November of that year to arrest the tutor and bring him to account. Recognising the seriousness of the situation, John Grant of Fruchie, the chief of Clan Grant, initially agreed to hand over the tutor and his followers to Huntly's custody at Huntly Castle. However, events took a dramatic turn. Instead of surrendering, Fruchie sided with the tutor's men and joined forces with the Earl of Moray. Together, they fortified nearby Darnaway Castle, preparing for a confrontation. When Huntly's men arrived to take control, they were met with fierce resistance. The defenders fired pistols and even cannon from the castle walls, making their desire to fight clear. In the chaos that followed, John Gordon, the brother of the Laird of Cluny, was killed. His death only deepened the animosity between the Gordons and the Grants, further entrenching the feud. The death of John was not just a personal tragedy, it was a blow to the Gordons' pride and a spark that would fuel further violence in the years to come. This episode was emblematic of the turbulent nature of Highland politics in the late 16th century, where alliances shifted, marriages strengthened or severed ties, and disputes often ended with bloodshed. The feud between the Gordons and the Grants was one of many that illustrated how fragile peace could be in a land where honour and vengeance often outweighed royal decrees and legal authority. Ballindalloch Castle has long been entwined with a history of violence and upheaval. In 1645, during the Wars of the Three Kingdoms, it became a target of destruction at the hands of James Graham, the first Marquess of Montrose. Montrose, acting as King Charles I's lieutenant in Scotland, launched a brutal campaign against the Covenanters, supporters of parliamentary control who opposed the king's God-given authority. The Grant clan, who controlled Ballindalloch, were known Covenanter allies, making their lands a prime target for Montrose's forces. That year, Montrose marched his army through the Highlands and into Strathspey, determined to break Covenanter support. As his troops advanced, they left a trail of destruction in their wake, burning estates and intimidating loyalist strongholds. When they reached Ballindalloch, they set it ablaze, reducing parts of it to smouldering ruins. The attack was swift, devastating, and intended to cripple the Grants' power in the region. Despite this fiery destruction, the Grant clan rebuilt the castle, and in 1770, extensions were added by Major James Grant. Although its history is steeped in bloodshed and violence, Ballindalloch Castle is also said to be shrouded in mystery. Among the stories surrounding its origins is a legend that the castle was never meant to stand where it is today. The original plans placed the structure on a hill overlooking the river, but something, or someone, seemed determined to stop its construction. Each morning, the stonemasons would arrive to find their previous day's work ruined, with stones scattered and some dumped into the river below. Frustrated by the constant setbacks, John Grant, the castle's builder, decided to stay behind one evening to uncover the truth. As night settled, a powerful wind swept through the site, ripping stones from the foundation and knocking Grant off his feet. He tumbled down the hill, landing in a cow meadow at the base. As the wind faded, a low, resonant voice seemed to drift on the breeze, echoing with an almost otherworldly authority. It instructed Grant to
build on the Coo-Haw,
the very meadow where he had fallen. Taking this as a warning, he abandoned the hilltop location and began construction on the meadow instead. It's not the only mysterious story associated with Ballindalloch. The castle is believed to be home to several spirits, with sightings reported by the family and visitors during the months the castle is open to the public. One of the most enduring tales is that of the Green Lady, who's most often seen in the dining room, a space that once served as the Great Hall. Her origins and the reason she remains within the castle walls are a mystery to this date, but witnesses describe her as a quiet, almost detached presence, moving through the room as though unaware of those around her. Unlike some ghostly figures who seem intent on interacting or unsettling the living, the Green Lady appears to be lost in her own world, quietly replaying an unknown chapter of the castle's long history. One such encounter tells of a servant working alone in the dining room one evening, setting the table for a formal dinner. As she placed the final piece of silverware, she became aware of a figure standing by the window, a woman wearing a flowing green dress. At first she thought it was one of the family members admiring the view, but something about the figure felt off. The servant called out politely, but the woman didn't respond or even turn her head. Instead, she seemed lost in thought, her gaze fixed on the distant hills beyond the window. It was when the servant stepped closer that the air grew noticeably colder. The figure turned, her face calm but distant, as though she looked through the servant rather than at her. Then, without a word or sound, the woman drifted towards the far wall and vanished before the servant's eyes. Shaken but determined, the servant later described the encounter to her fellow staff, only to be met with knowing nods. Others had seen the same ethereal woman in green, always calm, always distant, as though she was reliving a memory of a time long past. The Pink Tower, built by General James Grant in 1820, is one of the castle's most distinctive features. Designed as a charming addition to the castle's original structure, it stands out due to its warm, rose-coloured exterior and elegant design. However, its beauty is accompanied by unsettling stories, with one particular bedroom at the centre of these tales. In one of the upper bedrooms, a woman's figure has been seen standing near the window or by a fireplace dating back to the 1540s. Her expression, like the Green Lady's, is calm and distant, as though lost in thought. On some occasions, she's seen wearing a large straw hat or seated quietly in an old chair, as though simply observing the room around her. She's most often witnessed in the quiet hours of the evening, just as the castle settles into silence. Some believe she's a former matriarch of the Grant family, keeping watch over the ones she once loved. Witnesses have described an overwhelming sense of peace in her presence, an echo of a life that seems unwilling to fully let go. Unlike more frightening apparitions, the figure doesn't cause fear, but rather a quiet, solemn curiosity. Her appearances are always fleeting, never lasting long enough for anyone to speak to her or get a clear sense of her purpose. Could she be drawn to the window by memories of a long-lost moment, or is she simply gazing out over the familiar landscape she once cherished? The room where she's often seen remains a place of curiosity for visitors, with many reporting the room being filled with an unnatural silence, as though the walls themselves hold their breath, waiting for her to return. However, not all spirits of Ballindalloch remain still. General James Grant, 4th of Ballindalloch, was a distinguished British Army officer and politician. His life was filled with both military triumphs and political influence. Rising to the rank of Major General, he played a crucial role in the American War of Independence, and earlier served with distinction in the 7 Years' War. Grant was appointed Governor of East Florida from 1763 to 1771, where he worked to strengthen British control in the region. He later held seats in the Houses of Commons from 1773 to 1802, demonstrating his enduring commitment to public service. Despite his storied career, he returned to Ballindalloch in his later years, where he focused on estate improvements and family life. When he passed away in 1806, his final wish was to be buried near his beloved home, a request that was honoured. Yet some say his spirit still roams the castle halls, particularly near the old wine cellar, a favourite spot of his, as though he remains watchful over his ancestral estate. But this cellar wasn't always a place for fine vintages. It once served as the castle's dungeon, a grim holding place for prisoners. Beneath that lies a pit prison, an oppressive, windowless chamber, where captives were once confined. After a flood filled it with silt and debris, the lower chamber was never fully excavated, leaving its contents hidden beneath the layers of earth. Some believe this forgotten history lends this space an unsettling presence, as though secrets from the past still linger in its shadows. Could it be that the General is searching for something long lost beneath the stone floor? His presence isn't just confined to the castle's interior. The figure that many witnesses claim to have seen riding a great white horse across the estate grounds is believed to be General Grant, continuing his watch over Ballindalloch. Whether driven by a sense of duty or by a restless spirit bound to something unresolved, The General's patrol serves as a reminder that, even in death, some bonds to home remain unbroken. This account adds to the persistent charm of Ballindalloch's haunted history, though detailed first-hand reports of sightings are scarce. Stories passed down suggest that the horseman is often seen at dawn or dusk, his figure silhouetted against the horizon. And in some accounts, witnesses describe hearing the faint sound of hoofbeats long before seeing the rider, only to find the grounds empty. These encounters fuel speculation that General Grant's unwavering dedication to the estate continues even in death, watching over the castle he loved so dearly. Ballindalloch is a place that feels like it's been loved through every hardship it's faced. From the bloody feud that scarred the land to the devastating fire set by Montrose's forces, it's always been rebuilt with care, as if the Grants couldn't bear to let it go. But beyond this history of resilience, there's something else that keeps it alive. A sense that for some, it's a home they can't leave, even in death. I'm sure all of us have a place like that. A place that feels like it holds a piece of us. Somewhere we dream of returning to. For me, it's my parents' old farm on the shores of Loch Rannoch. For the green lady who quietly watches over the castle, or the figure glimpsed in the pink tower, Ballindalloch seems to be that place. Even the phantom horseman appears drawn back, as though the land itself still calls him home. When you walk through Ballindalloch, you sense it's more than just a grand building with a long history. It's a home, a place where people stayed because they couldn't imagine being anywhere else. Some places do that to you, and for those spirits who linger, this isn't a story of being trapped or restless. It's about staying close to something they loved too much to leave behind.